You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I am back. Root Chance for Black and White Sports 2. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, like, comment, share this bad boy out. Let's talk about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's going to be under a microscope all season long. Why? Well, many people have questioned his work ethic. He's been injured. He's small. And in a lot of ways, his situation is akin to Russell Wilson's. Now, Russell Wilson, he's going to probably go in the Hall of Fame. And at this point, he is a far superior quarterback to anything Kyler Murray has turned out to be in the NFL. But his coaches and his organization are going to be watching him very closely. And he's made a lot of comments. Patrick Peterson has nailed him. His offensive tackle nailed him. They got issues with work ethic, and many believe the Arizona Cardinals are going to be the worst team in the league this year, and because of that, Caleb Williams and Drake May loom now over the Cardinals franchise. And I'm sorry, but if I'm in position to take either one of those guys and show Kyler Murray the door, I do it. And his ex-general manager, Steve Keim, and imagine, this is the guy that paid him. And it's totally nonsensical that they gave him that contract. I know I've heard some local Arizona reporters come out and say they didn't have a choice. They had to give him that contract. No, you always got a choice. You do. There's franchise tags and all this kind of stuff that could have happened. But Kyler is small. His work ethic is in question. He's hurt. His one playoff appearance was an absolute travesty. I mean, is this guy clutch? What do we know? So far, it doesn't look good. It doesn't. This feels a lot like Carson Wentz and Jared Goff getting extensions and then ending up on other teams. Now, Jared Goff has responded, looks really good again. Carson Wentz doesn't have a team right now. Just pointing that out because I've talked about the fact that there's a lot of gasoline around the fact that half the entire league is out on Kyler in the NFL. Think about that. And it's not even the attitude part. As we know, it's not even the attitude part. It's his physical size that a lot of these teams are automatically out on. So it does raise a question. If the Cardinals end up moving on from Kyler Murray for Caleb Williams or Drake May, what happens with Kyler Murray's career at that point? I mean, he'll be on a roster, I guess, but he's got an insane contract. So what happens around that? Ex-Cardinals GM responds to Kyler Murray's controversial comments. Kyler Murray and new general manager Monty Ossenfort appear to be on the same page heading into the first NFL season together. Murray and former GM Steve Keim, not so much. Look, again, Steve, you're the one that gave him this absurd extension. And you knew a lot of these things right here. So he's not without his flaws as a former GM. Murray recently made headlines for his polarizing comments about people having to look in the mirror. That's right. I did a video where he took a blatant shot at either Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury, or both. And he's certainly not one to talk shit about nobody. Kyler Murray, you don't have that cachet right now, bud. You don't. Some people took that as a subtle jab. There wasn't nothing subtle about it. At the Cardinals' previous regime, after the team made moves to replace Keim and last year's head coach Cliff Kingsbury, a guy that they brought in specifically for Kyler because of the offense. That's interesting because Kyler didn't exactly excel. He had one strong season. I'm going to listen. I'm going to be coachable. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. But if The shit ain't working. At some point, we all have to look in the mirror, Murray said on Cardinals Flight Plan Series. Keim chimed in on Murray's comments in a Tuesday appearance on The Herd with Colin Cowherd. And it's safe to say the ex-Cardinal executive wasn't thrilled with his former quarterback's stance. Let's see if we can play this. Let's play this. I'm down to listen to The Herd. Oh, yeah, it's a short clip. We can do it.
And, for the first time in his career, he's got real doubters. I mean, if they win 2 football games and Caleb Williams is available, I would say this now. I would take the new kid. You know what I mean? I think I would take Caleb Williams. Kyler, he transferred in college. He didn't want to hear that. Do you think he's made money? He's a star quarterback. Do you think he can change? Are you concerned going forward for him?
Well, I think in terms of quarterback speak, Colin, what he said, you don't love it just because of the standpoint. When he added the word but in, generally behind a positive, the word but does not end in a positive light. So I certainly didn't want to hear that. And nor do fans want to hear a guy who's making $46.1 million a year blame anybody but himself. And I'm not saying that he's a guy that blames people. Yet at the same time, everybody, when you get that bag of cash, everybody expects you to take it on your shoulders. And that's what a franchise quarterback does. And this is a big year. I would have actually had Kyler in my top 5 for guys under pressure, because if they do have a tough year, he's coming off an injury. And also, Colin, you got to understand, he's coming off the injury. He's got to prove himself. And then what happens is what people forecast, which they have the number 1 pick, they're in a real predicament. Just like.
Yeah. So he's saying it. They're in a real predicament if they end up with the first overall pick or the first 2 picks. Now, again, they gave him the contract. So that's sort of part of the baffling part about this whole thing from Keim's point. I think Keim's right. I mean, I said the other day when I made that video about his statements, and I did a video on exactly what Kyler Murray said, he didn't take ownership. Okay? And I was watching the Netflix quarterback thing, and it's Peyton Manning's Omaha Productions that put that out on Netflix. And Peyton opens the show, first episode. Quarterbacks get a bunch of the credit, and quarterbacks take most of the blame. And that's what it is to be a franchise quarterback. That's part of it. It's your job to take basically all the blame from the franchise. You're the CEO of the franchise. You run the show. You run the ship. When your team loses and you play poorly, you own it. You don't throw members of personnel and your coaches and all that shit under the bus. Okay? You don't. Because, look, a couple of teams sniffed around Cliff Kingsbury to hire him as an offensive coordinator. He didn't want the job. He wanted to stay in the Philippines with that good-looking model he's with. But that tells you how the league looks at Cliff Kingsbury and his offensive prowess. Look, guys, there was real sniffs around Cliff by the Patriots to hire him at OC. Cliff Kingsbury is no offensive chump. He is not. I know that's sort of the story that's been written on him. I mean, are we sure? Are we sure that Cliff actually didn't make lemonade out of lemons with Kyler Murray? Question mark. Are we sure of that? Because I'm not. I'm not sure of that at all. So, tell me what you think, Black and White Sports 2 supporters. It's not a good look when your former GM is like, ugh, if they end up with the first pick, probably better take Caleb Williams. Don't love his comments. The fans don't want to hear it. You make 47 large. Yeah. The fans don't want to hear it. Own it, Kyler. It's kind of crazy because I liked Kyler coming out of college, out of Oklahoma. I did. But, boy, being that small And a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but Rhodes, you love Bryce Young, and he's real small. Guys, Bryce Young has got the NFL quarterback mental capacity. All right? I want you to think about the names I'm going to say. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. His ability to Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck. His ability to process and play quarterback mentally, and how he's going to regurgitate that offense and run it. Again, if Bryce Young would have been 6'3", 220, he would have been one of the biggest prospects we've ever seen come into the NFL. All right? I mean, work ethic, leadership, all of that is much, much greater, much higher than Kyler Murray. He will never be that because it comes naturally for Bryce and not for Kyler. Bryce Young probably going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.